Admiral Cathera stared at the holographic display floating above her command table. Red warning symbols covered half the galaxy map. Each symbol meant the same thing. Another human trade route had gone silent. Another economic lifeline had been cut. "How many systems are affected now?" she asked her aide, a young Zelani officer whose blue skin had turned pale with worry. 47 star systems, Admiral. The Mortaki Consortium has declared bankruptcy. The Vex mining operations in the Outer Rim have stopped completely. Without human cargo ships, they cannot move their products. Cathara closed her 4 eyes and took a deep breath. 6 months ago, the Galactic Council had seemed so powerful. They ruled over 300 species across thousands of worlds. Humans were just one species among many. A useful species, yes, but not essential. How wrong they had been. When humanity left the Council, most aliens thought it would be temporary. A show of anger that would end when humans realized they needed the Council more than the Council needed them. The Council members had laughed. Some had even celebrated. Finally, they could run the galaxy without those stubborn, unpredictable humans always asking difficult questions. Now nobody was laughing. "Admiral," another officer called out, "we are receiving a priority message from Counselor Thexvara." The hologram changed to show Thexvara's worried face. The Altarian counselor looked tired. Her normally perfect purple feathers were ruffled and unkempt. "Admiral Cathara, I need your ships to escort a diplomatic mission to the Mortaki homeworld. We must convince them to accept our new trade proposal." "What kind of proposal?" Cathara asked, though she already suspected the answer. "We are offering to reduce tariffs by 30%, and we will provide military protection for their merchant vessels." Cathara almost laughed. 30%? Before humans left, the Mortaki had been getting goods moved across the galaxy for almost nothing. Human cargo ships were so efficient and cheap that other species had stopped building their own transport fleets. Why build cargo ships when humans would do it better and cheaper? "Counselor, the Mortaki will never accept those terms. They know. We cannot protect their ships. Half our patrol fleets were joint operations with human vessels." Thexvara's feathers ruffled more. "Then what do you suggest, Admiral?" "Maybe we should consider contacting the humans. Ask them to return." "Absolutely not!" Thexvara's voice became sharp. "The Council does not negotiate with species that abandon their duties. Humans made their choice. They can live with the consequences." The communication ended. Cathara looked back at her map of failing systems. She wondered who was really living with the consequences. Across the galaxy, Captain Elena Vasquez watched the same conversation through hidden sensors her ship had placed near the council chambers. The human sat in the captain's chair of the Defiance, a sleek vessel that bore no council markings. "Still think they know best," she said to her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Park. "The Altarians always did have too much pride," Park replied. "Remember the Proxima incident? They would rather let their own people die than admit they needed our help." Elena remembered. It was the final insult that had pushed humanity over the edge. When Altarian colonies were attacked by raiders, they had refused human military aid because they thought it would make them look weak. Thousands of civilians died while human rescue ships waited at the border, forbidden to help. That was when President Santos had called for the vote. Humanity would leave the Galactic Council. All trade agreements would end. All military cooperation would stop. All human colonies in Council space would be evacuated. The Council had not believed it would happen. Even when human ships began leaving Council ports, even when trade stations went dark, they thought it was just posturing. They learned too late that humans meant what they said. "Captain," the ship's communications officer called out, "we are picking up distress signals from the Kepler sector. Multiple vessels requesting assistance." "Any Council ships responding?" "No, Captain. The nearest Council patrol is 8 hours away." Elena considered her options. Officially, Humanity no longer had any obligations to help Council vessels. The Defiance was an independent ship, free to go where it pleased and help who it chose. Set course for the distress signals, she ordered, but maintain stealth mode. I want to see what is happening before we decide to act. On Earth, Director. Chen Wei sat in his office reading intelligence reports. The screens around him showed data that would have shocked the Council members if they could see it. Sales figures for human technology on alien black markets, requests for human medical supplies that were becoming desperate, military analyses of Council fleet capabilities that painted a grim picture. Sir, his assistant entered with another stack of data pads. The latest reports from our trade monitoring stations. Chen picked up the first pad and smiled. Quantum processors selling for 8 times the normal price? Medical nanobots going for 12 times market value? Yes, sir. It seems the Council species are discovering that our primitive technology is not so easy to replace. Chen had to laugh at that. For decades, Council species had looked down on human technology. They called it crude, simple, inefficient. They preferred their own complex systems that took years to build and required rare materials from across the galaxy. Human engineers had different ideas. They built things that worked reliably, could be repaired easily, and used common materials. Council species had mocked this approach. Now they were paying fortunes for it. What about the military situation? Chen asked. His assistant's expression became serious. Not good for the Council, sir. Thrakari raiders have become much bolder. Without our joint patrol networks, the Outer Rim is becoming lawless. 3 more colonies were attacked last week. And, the Council's response? They are trying to reorganize their defense networks. But, sir, the assistant hesitated. Speak freely. Our military advisors say it will take them years to rebuild what they lost when we left. The Council species were never good at working together. They only cooperated because we were there to coordinate everything. Chen nodded. Humans had always been good at bringing different groups together. It was one of their greatest strengths, and one of the main reasons the Council had valued them. Different alien species often could not work together because of cultural differences or old conflicts. Humans could talk to everyone and find common ground. Now that humans were gone, those old divisions were returning. Zalani admirals refused to take orders from Altarian counselors. Vorthak merchants would not trust Kethvara security forces. The delicate balance that had held the Council together was breaking apart. Sir, another aide entered quickly. Priority message from Colony Director Walsh on New Geneva. Chen activated the secure communication channel. Director Walsh appeared on the screen, her face tense with worry. Director Chen, we have a situation. An Altarian diplomat just arrived requesting a private meeting. She says she has information about a conspiracy within the Council. What kind of conspiracy? She claims that certain Council members planned the events that led to our departure, that they wanted us gone so they could seize control of galactic trade routes. Chen felt a cold anger rising in his chest. If that was true, then the Proxima incident had not been just pride and stupidity. It had been deliberate. Thousands of people had died as part of someone's political game. Bring her to Earth immediately, he ordered. And Director Walsh, maximum security. If she is telling the truth, there are people who will kill to keep these secrets. As the day ended, reports continued to flow in from across the galaxy. Economic systems failing, military defenses crumbling, political alliances breaking apart. The proud Galactic Council was discovering that ruling the galaxy was much harder without the humans they had taken for granted. But in the dark spaces, between stars, other forces were watching. The Thrakari raiders were growing stronger. Pirates and slavers moved freely through undefended space. And somewhere in the shadows, those who had orchestrated humanity's departure were preparing their next move. The galaxy was changing. The only question was whether it would survive what came next. Commander Jarek Voss stood on the bridge of the human patrol ship Aurora and watched the sensor readings with growing concern. 23 Thrakari raider ships were attacking a Council merchant convoy in the Kepler expanse. The massive insect-like aliens were moving with deadly precision. "Commander," his tactical officer called out, "the convoy is requesting immediate assistance. They are heavily outgunned." Voss studied the battle display. The Council convoy consisted of 6 merchant ships and 2 escort frigates. Against 23 Thrakari raiders, they had no chance. The alien escorts were already burning wrecks, their shields collapsed and hulls torn open. "Sir," Communications Officer Torres spoke up, "the convoy commander is specifically requesting human assistance. He says they will pay any price." Any price. 6 months ago, that same Council commander would have ordered human ships to stay away from Council business. Now they were begging for help. "What is the composition of our fleet?" Voss asked his executive officer. 3 patrol cruisers and 2 destroyers, sir. We could handle the raiders, but we are not part of the Council anymore," Voss finished. "We have no obligation to help them." Dr. Sarah Kim, the fleet's xenobiologist, moved closer to the command station. "Commander, I am reading some unusual energy signatures from the Thrakari ships. Their weapons seem more powerful than before." "How much more powerful?" "At least 30% increase in output. And sir, their formation tactics are different, more coordinated, more human-like." Voss felt a chill run down his spine. The Thrakari had always been dangerous raiders, but they fought like wild animals. Individual ships attacking without coordination, relying on numbers and brutality rather than strategy. What he was seeing now looked like human military doctrine. "Torres, can you get us detailed scans of the Thrakari weapons?" "Already on it, sir. Sending the data to Dr. Kim now." Kim studied her scanner readings, her face growing pale. "Commander, this is not possible. These energy patterns match human plasma cannon technology, but modified, enhanced." "How is that possible?" "Human weapons technology is classified." "Someone gave it to them," Kim said quietly, "or sold it to them." The battle was turning into a massacre. The Council merchant ships were trying to run, but the Thrakari were faster. One by one, the cargo vessels were being disabled and boarded. Voss could see escape pods launching from the ships, but the raiders were shooting them down. "Commander," his weapons officer reported, "if we are going to act, it has to be now. The merchants will not last another 10 minutes. Voss thought about the Proxima incident. How Council ships had watched human colonies burn because helping would have been politically complicated. How thousands of civilians had died while politicians argued about jurisdiction and proper procedures. But looking at those escape pods being destroyed, Voss saw only people in danger. Not Council citizens, not political enemies, just people who needed help. "All ships, this is Aurora. We are going in. Remember, we are not here to save the Council. We are here to stop a massacre." The human fleet accelerated toward the battle, 5 ships against 23 raiders. The odds were not good, but Voss had faith in his crews. Human ships were built for this kind of fight. "Incoming transmission from the Thrakari flagship," Torres reported. "Put them through." A massive insect face appeared on the screen. "The Thrakari." Commander's compound eyes glittered with malice. When it spoke, its voice was a series of clicks and hisses that the computer translated. "Human ship, you have no authority here. This is Council space. Council law. You abandoned them. Let them face the consequences. Thrakari Commander, you are attacking civilian vessels. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The alien commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "You think 5 human ships can stop us? We have learned from you, humans. We have improved. We are no longer the simple raiders you once defeated." The communication cut off. Immediately, 12 Thrakari ships broke off from the convoy. Attack and move toward the human fleet. Voss watched their approach pattern and felt his blood go cold. It was a perfect human pincer movement. "They have studied our tactics," he said to his crew. "Expect them to know our standard responses. The battle was unlike anything Voss had experienced. The Thrakari ships moved with human precision but alien ruthlessness. They used human strategies but had no concern for casualties or honor. It was like fighting a twisted mirror image of humanity. But the raiders had made one crucial mistake. They had learned human tactics, but they had not learned human adaptability. When their first attack formation was broken by unexpected human maneuvers, they tried to regroup using textbook responses. Voss had trained his crews to think beyond the textbook. "Defiant, execute pattern Omega-7, Voss ordered his second destroyer. "Sir, that pattern is not in the manual," came the reply. "Exactly. That is why it will work." The human ships scattered in what looked like a panicked retreat. The Thrakari gave chase, confident in their victory. Too late they realized it was a trap. The human ships had led them into a perfect killing ground. In 15 minutes, the battle was over. 18 Thrakari ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 5 fled into hyperspace. But the victory felt hollow. Dr. Kim's report confirmed Voss's worst fears. The Thrakari weapons were definitely based on human technology. Not just similar, identical in every important way. Someone had given them complete technical specifications. "Commander," Kim continued, "there is something else. I detected human medical nanobots in the wreckage of one Thrakari ship. They have been modified to enhance the aliens' natural healing abilities. Medical nanobots are restricted technology. Only a few human labs have access to the advanced versions." "Yes, sir, and all of those labs are supposed to be under strict security." Voss looked at the rescued council convoy. The alien crews were sending messages of gratitude, but he felt no satisfaction. Someone was selling human technology to their enemies. Someone was profiting from the galaxy's chaos. "Torres, send a secure message to Earth, Priority Alpha. Tell them we have evidence of technology theft, and tell them the Thrakari are no longer just raiders. They are becoming something much more dangerous." The convoy commander, a Zalani admiral, requested permission to come aboard the Aurora. Voss agreed, curious to hear what the alien had to say. Admiral Cathara appeared on his bridge. An hour later, escorted by human security officers. She looked older than in her official photos, her blue skin marked with stress lines. "Commander Voss, I want to thank you for your assistance. My people owe you a debt." "We did not do it for the council," Voss replied. "We did it because it was right." Cathara nodded slowly. "I understand. And I want you to know that not all council members supported the decisions that drove humanity away. Some of us tried to prevent it. But you failed. Yes, we failed. And now we are all paying the price." She looked out at the wreckage floating in space. "Commander, what you saw today is happening all over the galaxy. The Thrakari have become incredibly organized. They are not just raiding anymore. They are conquering." "What do you mean?" 3 star systems in the outer rim have gone completely dark. No communications, no distress signals, nothing. We sent scout ships to investigate. The ones that returned reported that entire worlds had been consumed. Voss felt a chill. Consumed how? Every living thing harvested. Every useful resource stripped away. Every piece of technology analyzed and copied. The Thrakari are not just stealing ships anymore, Commander. They are stealing entire civilizations. As Cathara's shuttle departed, Voss stood in his ready room staring out at the stars. The galaxy was becoming a more dangerous place every day. The Council's arrogance had driven away the one species that might have been able to stop what was coming. But humans had not abandoned the galaxy entirely. They had just stopped following Council orders. Perhaps it was time to start following their own conscience instead. "Torres," he called to his communications officer, "send a message to the independent human fleet commanders. Tell them we need to meet. We have a problem that is bigger than politics." In the depths of space, the Thrakari survivors fled toward their hidden bases. They carried with them detailed scans of human ship capabilities and tactical responses. The raid had been a failure, but it had provided valuable intelligence. Soon, the Thrakari would return, and when they did, they would be ready for humanity's tricks. The Great Council chamber on Nexus Prime had never felt so empty. Ambassador Zealtar of the Vorthak hegemony stood at the central podium, looking up at rows of seats that should have been filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Instead, nearly a third of the seats were empty. Some species had withdrawn from the council entirely. Others had stopped sending representatives because they could no longer afford the journey. The galaxy's economic collapse was affecting everyone. "Honorable Councilors," Zealtar began, his translator converting his deep, rumbling voice into words the other species could understand. "We face the greatest crisis in the Council's history. Our economic projections show complete collapse within 18 months without immediate action." Murmurs of concern rippled through the chamber. Even the proud Altarians looked worried. "The numbers speak for themselves," Zealtar continued, activating a holographic display. "Trade volume has dropped by 78%. 3 major banking consortiums have declared bankruptcy. The Mortaki Consortium, which provided raw materials to 40% of our manufacturing, no longer exists." Councillor Thexvara rose from her seat. "Ambassador Zealtar, we are all aware of the current difficulties. What we need are solutions, not more depressing statistics." "Very well. I propose that we formally invite humanity to return to the Council. Full membership restoration with no penalties for their departure." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several councillors stood up at once, shouting objections. Thexvara's purple feathers turned almost black with rage. "Absolutely unacceptable," she cried. "The Council does not negotiate with deserters. We have our pride." "Pride does not feed hungry populations," Zealtar replied calmly. "Pride does not protect merchant ships from raiders. Pride does not run cargo routes or coordinate defense fleets." An elderly Kethvara counselor named Mordek stood slowly. His species valued honor above all else, and his words carried weight in the chamber. "Perhaps," he said in his gravelly voice, "we should examine why humanity left in the first place. The Proxima incident was regrettable." "Regrettable?" Thexvara turned on him angrily. "The humans abandoned their responsibilities because we hurt their feelings. They proved they were never worthy of council membership." "No," said a quiet voice from the back of the chamber. "They left because we let children die for our politics." Everyone turned to see who had spoken. It was Yethmora, a junior Altarian counselor who rarely spoke in session. Her young purple feathers were perfectly groomed, but her voice shook with emotion. "Counselor Yethmora," Thexvara said coldly, "you are out of order." "Am I?" "Because I think we are all out of order. We sit here talking about pride while the galaxy burns around us." Yethmora stepped forward, her voice growing stronger. "I was at Proxima during the attack. I saw the human rescue ships waiting at our borders, waiting for permission to save lives while we argued about sovereignty." "The humans had no right to enter Altarian space without permission," Thexvara insisted. "The humans were the only ones with fast enough ships and advanced enough medical equipment to save those colonists. And we told them to wait. We told them to respect our boundaries." While people died, the chamber had gone silent. Even Thexvara seemed unsure how to respond. 3,000 civilians died that day, Yethmora continued, including 800 children, because we were too proud to let humans help us. And when they finally got permission to enter our space, it was too late for most of them. Zealtar nodded grimly. That was the moment we lost humanity's respect, not when we disagreed with their proposals or their methods, when we showed them that our pride mattered more than innocent lives. On Earth, President Maria Santos stood before the Global Assembly in Geneva. Unlike the near-empty council chamber, every seat here was filled. Humanity had come together in ways that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. "My fellow humans," Santos began, "we have received another message from the Galactic Council. This time, they are offering full restoration of our membership, with enhanced voting rights." Some assembly members laughed bitterly. Enhanced voting rights, as if that had ever been the problem. "We have also intercepted Council communications that reveal their true situation. Their military capability has declined by 60%. Their economic systems are in free fall. And most importantly, they are planning to force our return through economic warfare." The assembly grew quiet. Santos activated a holographic display showing intercepted Council documents. "These orders authorize the seizure of human assets in Council space, blockades of our trade routes, and military action against any human colonies that refuse to return to Council authority." Angry voices rose from the assembly. Representative Chen from the Pacific Federation stood up. "Madam President, are we to understand that the Council plans to attack us?" "That appears to be their intention if we continue to refuse their offers. However, they have underestimated both our resolve and our capabilities." Santos smiled as she activated another display. This one showed the locations of hidden human installations throughout the galaxy. "While the Council has been arguing among themselves, we have been building new shipyards in the Void Nebula, mining operations on rogue planets, research stations in uncharted space. We are no longer dependent on Council infrastructure." Representative Kim from the African Union raised her hand. "What about our people still in Council space? Our colonies that couldn't be evacuated?" "That brings me to our most important discovery," Santos said, her expression becoming serious. "We have been contacted by someone with information about a conspiracy within the Council leadership." The chamber buzzed with interest as Santos continued. "It appears that certain Council members deliberately orchestrated the events that led to our departure. The Proxima incident was not just arrogance and poor judgment. It was planned." The silence that followed was complete. Every person in the assembly understood the implications. "They wanted us gone," Santos said quietly. "They thought they could exploit the chaos that would follow, control galactic trade routes without human competition, seize our assets and technology. They underestimated the consequences." Light years away, on the human colony of New Geneva, Director Walsh escorted a nervous Altarian diplomat through the colony's security checkpoint. Counselor Yethmora looked around with wide eyes at the bustling human settlement. "I had not realized how advanced your colonies had become," she said. "We've had to become self-sufficient quickly," Walsh replied. "When you can't rely on Council, trade routes, you learn to build everything locally." They entered a secure conference room where Director Chen waited with several intelligence officers. Yethmora settled into a chair designed for Altarian physiology and took a deep breath. "Before I begin," she said, "you should know that I am risking my life by being here. If certain Council members discover I have contacted you, I will not survive." "We understand the risks," Chen replied. "What information do you have?" Yethmora activated a datapad and projected several documents into the air. "These are communications between Counselor Thexavara and Ambassador Veltar of the Zarion Trade Syndicate. They show extensive planning for humanity's departure from the Council." Chen studied the documents with growing anger. They detailed plans to provoke human withdrawal through increasingly hostile policies. The Proxima incident had been the final trigger, but the groundwork had been laid over years. "They wanted to drive us out," he said. "Yes, the plan was to wait until your departure caused economic disruption, then step in to control the affected trade routes. They would become the galaxy's primary logistics coordinators, replacing human efficiency with their own networks." "What went wrong with their plan?" Yethmora made a sound that might have been bitter laughter. "Everything. They assumed human capabilities could be easily replaced. They thought other species would accept Zarion control of trade routes. Most importantly, they never considered that you might build something better outside the council. One of Chen's intelligence officers leaned forward. What about the Thrakari? Are they involved in this conspiracy? Not originally, but someone has been selling them technology and information. I believe Veltar's people are using the raiders to weaken council authority further. The chaos serves their purposes. Chen felt pieces of a larger puzzle clicking into place. The enhanced Thrakari weapons, the strategic coordination of raider attacks, the perfect timing of economic disruptions. It was all connected. Counselor Yethmora, what would you need from us to expose this conspiracy? Evidence that will convince the other council members. Many suspect something is wrong, but they need proof. And she hesitated. What else? Protection. When this comes out, Thexavara and her allies will not hesitate to eliminate witnesses. I will need sanctuary. Chen nodded. That can be arranged. But I have to ask, why are you doing this? Why risk everything to help us? Yethmora was quiet for a long moment. Because I was at Proxima. I saw those children die while their parents screamed for help that never came. I have carried that guilt for months, knowing that my species' pride cost innocent lives. She looked directly at Chen. You left the council because we failed to be worthy of your partnership. But some of us still believe in what the council could have been. Captain Marcus Torres crouched in the shadows of asteroid mining station Delta 7, watching council security forces search the docking bays below. His black stealth suit made him nearly invisible against the dark metal walls, but he could hear the aliens getting closer. Sweep every compartment, the Zalani security chief ordered his troops. Intelligence says the human terrorist cell is operating from this station. Torres smiled grimly at being called a terrorist. 6 months ago, he had been a decorated council liaison officer. Now he was leading a resistance network that spanned dozens of star systems. Amazing how quickly perspective could change. His earpiece crackled with a whispered transmission. Ghost Lead, this is Phantom 2. Security forces are moving toward your position. You have maybe 3 minutes. Copy that, Phantom 2, beginning extraction now. Torres activated his personal shield generator and dropped down to the lower level. The mining station was a maze of tunnels and machinery that provided perfect cover for someone who knew how to use it. He had spent weeks mapping every passage and ventilation shaft. Behind him, the Zalani forces continued their search. They would find nothing. The real resistance meeting was taking place 50 kilometers away on a hidden asteroid base that did not officially exist. 20 minutes later, Torres materialized on the bridge of the converted cargo ship Shadowhawk. Captain Lisa Park looked up from her navigation console with relief. Good to see you in one piece, Marcus. Any problems? Nothing we could not handle. Status report? We have representatives from 12 resistance cells standing by for the briefing, including some new allies that might surprise you. Torres followed Park into the ship's main conference room. The people gathered around the holographic table represented species from across the galaxy. Humans, yes, but also Kethvara honor guards, Axiom scholars, and even a few young Altarians who had broken with their government. At the head of the table stood someone Torres had not expected to see. Mordek, the elderly Kethvara counselor who had spoken up during the recent council session. Counselor Mordek, Torres said carefully. This is unexpected. The old alien's scaled face showed no emotion. Captain Torres, I hope you will forgive the intrusion, but circumstances have forced me to seek unconventional allies. What circumstances? Mordek activated a data pad, projecting images of destroyed Kethvara colony ships. 3 of our outer rim settlements have been attacked in the past week. Not by Thrakari raiders, but by council forces, ships flying Xerion Trade Syndicate flags. Torres studied the images with growing anger. The attacks had been thorough and brutal. No survivors, no witnesses, no evidence left behind except for the distinctive weapon signatures. Why would Council forces attack Kethvara colonies? Because we have been asking too many questions, said another voice. Torres turned to see a young Axiom female step forward. Her species were known for their peaceful nature and incredible intelligence. I am Scholar Velsina, she continued. My people have been monitoring Council communications for irregularities. What we discovered led to our own colonies being threatened. She activated her own display, showing communication intercepts and financial records. There is a shadow network within the Council that has been manipulating events for their own benefit. They arranged humanity's departure, encouraged the Thrakari attacks, and are now eliminating anyone who gets too close to the truth. Torres felt pieces of a puzzle clicking into place. The conspiracy that Counselor Yethmora discovered. It is bigger than we thought. Much bigger, Mordek agreed. My sources suggest that at least 5 major Council species have leadership, compromised by this network. They are preparing to reshape the galaxy according to their vision. What kind of vision? Park asked. Velsina's large eyes darkened with fear. Total corporate control. No independent colonies, no free trade, no species sovereignty. Everything controlled by a handful of trade syndicates. Torres looked around the room at the assembled representatives. What about the Thrakari? Where do they fit into this? They are being used, said a new voice. Everyone turned to see Agent Sarah Kim step out of the shadows. Torres had not even known she was on the ship. Agent Kim, he said, I thought you were investigating the technology theft. I was. And what I found changes everything. Kim activated a portable holographic projector showing detailed technical schematics. The Thrakari are not just buying human technology. They are being systematically upgraded. The schematics showed Thrakari biology enhanced with human nanobots, their ships rebuilt with human engineering principles, their weapons upgraded with human plasma technology. Someone is creating a hybrid army, Kim continued. Thrakari aggression and numbers enhanced with human technology and tactics. The perfect weapon for controlling the galaxy. But who is doing this? Torres asked. We are still investigating, but the evidence points to multiple sources. Someone with access to restricted human technology, extensive financial resources, and detailed knowledge of Thrakari biology. Mordek's scales rattled with anger. The Shadow Network. They are building their own private army. It gets worse, Kim said, projecting another set of images. 3 days ago, I infiltrated a Council black site facility. They are holding captured humans and experimenting on them. The room fell silent. Torres felt cold rage building in his chest. What kind of experiments? Biological analysis, technology? Extraction, psychological conditioning. They are trying to understand what makes humans effective in combat and leadership. The goal appears to be creating enhanced soldiers for the network's use. Park slammed her fist on the table. They are torturing our people. 17 confirmed prisoners, Kim confirmed. Possibly more at other facilities. I managed to extract 3 of them during my escape. But the others... We get them out, Torres said firmly. All of them, whatever it takes. That may be more difficult than you think, said a familiar voice from the conference room entrance. Everyone turned to see Admiral Elena Vasquez enter with 2 security officers. Admiral, Torres said, standing to attention out of habit. At ease, Captain. We are all on the same side now. Vasquez moved to the holographic display, studying the intelligence data. I came here to brief you on a larger situation that affects all our operations. She activated her own display, showing fleet movements across the galaxy. The Thrakari are massing for a major offensive. Our scouts report over 300 ships gathering in the Terminus Nebula. Enhanced ships with hybrid technology. 300 ships, Park breathed. That is not a raiding fleet. That is an invasion force. Exactly. And intelligence suggests their first target will be the Council core worlds. They plan to decapitate the government and seize control of the galactic infrastructure. Torres studied the tactical display. That would be a disaster for everyone. Even if we hate the Council, we cannot let the Thrakari take over. Agreed. But here is the interesting part. Our monitoring stations detected coded transmissions between the Thrakari fleet and ships in Council space. Someone is coordinating with them. Velsina's eyes widened with understanding. The Shadow Network. They plan to let the Thrakari attack weaken the Council, then step in as saviors to restore order, using their enhanced Thrakari forces to eliminate opposition, Mordek added grimly. Vasquez nodded. That appears to be the plan. The question is, what do we do about it? Torres looked around the room at the assembled resistance fighters. Humans and aliens who had come together because they shared common values of freedom and justice. People who had been labeled as terrorists and traitors for opposing corruption. We stopped them, he said simply. All of them. The network conspirators and their Thrakari army. How? Park asked. We have maybe 50 ships total across all our cells. They have hundreds. We do what humans do best, Torres replied with a smile. We improvise, we adapt, and we find allies in unexpected places. He turned to Mordek and Velsina. How many species are represented in this resistance network now? 17 confirmed, Velsina replied, with more expressing interest every day. Then we reach out to them all. Every species that values freedom over control. Every colony that wants to govern itself. Every trade captain who refuses to bow to corporate masters. Vasquez raised an eyebrow. You are talking about starting a war. No, Admiral. The war already started when they began torturing prisoners and building slave armies. We are just choosing which side to fight on. Kim stepped forward with another data pad. There is something else you all need to know. During my infiltration of the Black Site, I discovered they are planning something called Protocol 7. I could not get complete details, but it involves simultaneous attacks on multiple human colonies. When? Torres demanded. Soon. Maybe. Weeks. The goal appears to be forcing humanity to return to the Council by holding our civilians hostage. The room erupted in angry voices. Every human in the resistance had family and friends on the targeted colonies. This was no longer about politics or economics. It was about survival. Torres raised his hand for silence. Then we move now. Contact. Every cell, every ally, every sympathetic ship captain in the galaxy. The Shadow Network thinks they can control us through fear and force. He looked around the room at the determined faces of humans and aliens united by common cause. They are about to learn why that was a mistake. Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the largest fleet ever assembled by independent human forces prepare for battle. 200 ships hung in space around the hidden shipyards of the Void Nebula, their hulls gleaming with new armor and unknown technologies. Admiral, her communications officer called out, we are receiving the Council's emergency broadcast. Put it through. The main screen filled with the image of Counselor Thex Vara, her purple feathers disheveled and her voice desperate. Behind her, alarms were blaring and the Council chamber was in chaos. To all vessels in range, Thex Vara broadcast. The Galactic. Council is under attack by a massive Thrakari invasion force. We are requesting immediate assistance from all available ships. We offer full restoration of human membership with equal voting rights and trade privileges. The broadcast ended. Vasquez looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. Humans who had been exiled, branded as deserters, threatened with capture. Now their former oppressors were begging for help. Admiral, her tactical officer reported. Long-range sensors confirm the Thrakari fleet composition. Over 400 ships, including several new classes we have never seen before. And the Council Defense Forces? Less than 100 ships in position. Most of their fleet is scattered across the galaxy trying to maintain order. They cannot possibly stop this attack. Vasquez activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Vasquez. You have heard the Council's plea for assistance. I want every captain to understand that we are under no obligation to help them. They made their choice when they drove us away. She paused, looking out at the fleet that represented humanity's future. However, this is not about the Council anymore. If the Thrakari succeed in their invasion, millions of innocent civilians will die. That is something we cannot allow, regardless of politics. Her executive officer leaned closer. Admiral, what about the Shadow Network? If we save the Council, we might be protecting the very people who orchestrated this crisis. That is why we are not going to save the Council, Vasquez replied with a slight smile. We are going to replace it. Light years away, Captain Marcus Torres led a strike force through the outer defenses of Council Security Station Omega-3. The massive orbital facility had been one of the black sites where human prisoners were being held and experimented on. Phantom Team, report, Torres spoke into his helmet communicator. Charges placed on the main power grid, came Agent Kim's voice. Ready to blow on your signal. Ghost Team in position at the detention levels, reported another operative. 17. Human prisoners confirmed, plus about 30 aliens who were asking too many questions. Torres smiled grimly. Even in their final desperate hours, the Shadow Network was still eliminating witnesses. That was about to end. All teams, execute on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. The station's lights went out as Kim's explosives destroyed the power grid. Emergency lighting flickered on just as Torres's assault teams breached the detention levels. The station's guards, caught completely off guard, surrendered quickly when faced with human soldiers in powered armor. This is Captain Torres to all station personnel, he broadcast over the facility's intercom system. This station is now under the authority of the Free Human Alliance. All prisoners are being liberated. Any resistance will be met with appropriate force. The rescue operation took less than an hour. As the liberated prisoners were evacuated to waiting ships, Torres reviewed the intelligence data they had recovered from the station's computers. Captain, Kim reported as she joined him in the station's command center. You need to see this. We found the complete files on Protocol 7. Torres studied the data with growing horror. The Shadow Network had not just planned to attack human colonies. They had planned to use captured humans as test subjects for biological weapons designed to target human genetics specifically. They were going to commit genocide, he said quietly. It gets worse. The research was being shared with the Thrakari. They were planning to use these weapons during their invasion to eliminate human resistance. Torres felt cold rage building in his chest. How many other facilities like this one? At least 6 confirmed, possibly more. Then we hit them all. Tonight. No mercy for anyone involved in this program. As Torres's strike teams prepared for their next missions, the main battle was beginning near the Council core worlds. The Thrakari invasion fleet had emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their enhanced ships gleaming with hybrid technology. Admiral Vasquez watched the enemy fleet approach from her position 50,000 kilometers away. The human fleet was hidden behind a small moon, invisible to Thrakari sensors, but with perfect visibility of the coming battle. Admiral, her science officer reported, I am detecting some unusual energy signatures from the Thrakari ships. Their power output is incredible. Enhanced human technology, Vasquez replied. They have taken our designs and improved them with their own bioengineering. Can we match their capabilities? Vasquez smiled. They have our old technology. We have something much better. She activated a fleet-wide communication channel. All ships, prepare to reveal our new capabilities. Remember, these are not the ships the Thrakari studied. They have never seen what we built during our exile. The lead Thrakari ships opened fire on the Council defense fleet. The alien weapons were devastating, tearing through Council shields and armor as if they were made of paper. Within minutes, half the defending ships were destroyed or disabled. On the Council flagship, Admiral Cathara watched her fleet being destroyed with growing despair. All ships, fall back to secondary defensive positions. Send another message. To any human vessels in range. Admiral, her communications officer replied, the humans are not responding to our requests. Then we are lost, Cathara said quietly. That was when space around the Thrakari fleet suddenly filled with human ships. The human fleet had not approached from normal space. Instead, they had used technology that the Thrakari had never seen before. Instantaneous transportation through folded space. One moment the area was empty, the next it contained 200 human vessels in perfect attack formation. All ships, Vasquez broadcast on an open channel that both Council and Thrakari forces could hear. This is Admiral Vasquez of the Free Human Alliance. We are not here to save the Galactic Council. We are here to protect innocent lives and stop an atrocity. The Thrakari flagship responded immediately. Human Admiral, withdraw your ships. This is not your concern. When you torture our people and plan genocide against our species, it becomes our concern. You have one chance to surrender. You are outnumbered 2-to-1, human. Your old ships cannot match our enhanced technology. These are not our old ships, Vasquez replied. You might want to scan us more carefully. The Thrakari sensors revealed ships unlike anything they had encountered. Human vessels enhanced with technologies that seemed impossible. Energy signatures that defied known physics. Weapon systems that registered off their scales. What you are seeing, Vasquez announced, is what happens when humans stop following Council regulations and start building what they really want to build. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The Thrakari ships, enhanced with human technology, were formidable opponents, but the human fleet had spent months developing countermeasures for their own stolen technology while building something entirely new. Human ships moved through space like living things, their hulls shifting and adapting to incoming attacks. Their weapons fired beams of pure energy that could cut through any known armor. Most shocking of all, when human ships were damaged, they seemed to repair themselves in real time. Impossible, the Thrakari fleet commander transmitted. How can you have advanced so far in such a short time? We had help, Vasquez replied cryptically. The truth was even more remarkable than the Thrakari could imagine. During their exile, human exploration ships had made contact with the Forerunners, an ancient race that had disappeared millions of years ago. The aliens had been watching the galaxy's development with interest, waiting for a species that showed true potential for growth and cooperation. Humanity's departure from the Council had impressed them. Here was a species willing to sacrifice political power and economic advantage rather than compromise their principles. The Forerunners had decided to share some of their knowledge. The result was the fleet now devastating the Thrakari invasion force. All Thrakari vessels, Vasquez broadcast as the alien formation began to collapse. You have two choices: surrender and face justice for your crimes, or continue fighting and face destruction. To her surprise, about 50 Thrakari ships stopped firing and transmitted surrender codes. The others fled into hyperspace, their invasion shattered. In the aftermath of the battle, Admiral Cathara requested permission to come aboard the human flagship. Vasquez agreed, curious to hear what the Council Admiral had to say. Cathara appeared on the bridge an hour later, her blue skin pale with exhaustion. Admiral Vasquez, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you for your assistance. We did not do this for the Council, Vasquez replied. We did it to prevent a massacre. I understand, but surely this proves that we can work together, that humanity belongs in the Council. Vasquez shook her head.